All right, we begin with breaking news here on the Fox 11 Weekend News. We've been keeping an eye on that speeding four-door sedan. You see it in the HOV lane, and Skyfox is overhead, and behind that car, at least one black and white. We know there are probably more than that, and that is because it is believed that there is a 16-year-old kidnapped victim inside that car. So we've been watching them as they pursue this car, but very carefully. There has been nothing to suggest that they wanted to pit maneuver or anything like this. And so as we see what the speeds are, that car has been going as fast as over 100 miles per hour. Right now you see that it's in the Long Beach, El Dorado Park, and wow, sped up quite a bit in order to get off. That is the Spring Street Cerritos Avenue off-ramp. At one point, CHP had to leave the scene because their night son died. So right now, that's LA Sheriff's Department, from what I understand, overhead, watching again the sedan. Now, from what we understand, this pursuit started in the Laguna Beach area, so Orange County, and then made its way all the way up into LA County, Downey, Norwalk, that area, before this car going on and off the freeway got back onto the freeway on 605 South. Now it is driving on a surface street in the Rancho Estates area. This is East Spring Street, as it goes along at a pretty high rate of speed, considering that they are no longer on the freeway. Again, there's not a lot of information that we can give you per se that is very specific, other than the fact that we've been keeping an eye on it. At one point, the car stopped. It may have been because it noticed that there was no night sun overhead, so it stopped in a residential area. We wondered whether that was going to be an opportunity for the driver to let the passenger out, let the passenger go. Instead, the car started driving again. Skyfox was able to take a shot inside of the vehicle and notice, yes, indeed, the passenger was still there. Again, it changes the way law enforcement is going to pursue this car. They do not want to prompt the driver into an unsafe situation. We've already seen the car go through red lights. At one point, it barely missed a black truck going through the intersection. Now you see that the car has slowed up because of the traffic. Let's see what happens again. Because there is somebody inside that car, other than the driver, other than the suspect, that obviously is going to influence the way police follow the sedan. So there it goes. Okay, so I'm getting new information. That's why I hesitated there. So right now, it's not confirmed as yet, but there is some suggestion that the driver is a young man and the female is a teenager. So again, we don't know a lot about the driver, but this is, of course, going to affect the way they pursue this driver. It's sort of interesting how the driver has navigated the streets, not only going at a high rate of speed. Oh, and look at this. This is quite the dramatic U-turn. North Los Coyotes Diagonal, I know that street. That's in the Long Beach area as it heads now back south, I believe, going in the southeast direction. Going through that intersection, that's probably a red light, maybe a red light that the driver just went through. Okay, so again, LA Sheriff's overhead. This situation has been going on more than half an hour, and it has been dangerous, and all these pursuits are dangerous. But it has been a little nerve-wracking. Now imagine that you are either the parent of that young driver or the parent of the female teenager inside. This has got to be particularly nerve-wracking. Right now, the car is not, as you see, the speedometer there, it's not going at too high rate of speed for the area, but it's still evading law enforcement. And law enforcement driving behind with lights and sirens. That means it's felony evasion. As that car slows into this intersection, that is a red light, it appears, going through that intersection. That time safely, thanks to the fact that traffic is a little slower. I don't know that this driver knows where that he may be going. We talk often a lot, that's through a stop sign, often about the fact that drivers like to go back to the areas that they know. However, there's a lot of back and forth, U-turn, left, right turns. So I don't think that this driver knows exactly where they are. If this started in Laguna Beach, it's chances are that the driver is better versed or knows the Orange County area better. But at this point, it seems as if it's just all about staying a couple of steps in front of law enforcement. And again, because law enforcement is worried about the passenger, they are not going to approach this kind of pursuit in the same manner as they perhaps would if they knew for sure that there was just the driver that they had to worry about. And of course, there's always a concern, especially on these surface streets, that other people may get involved, either a pedestrian or just the traffic, the cross traffic that would be coming along. East Spring Street appears to be a more major thoroughfare. Oh, we saw black and white there coming mighty close, but not enough to do anything. And again, knowledge that there is a second person in there, perhaps an innocent bystander. If it's a kidnapped victim, does she want to be in that vehicle, or is this a situation where she does want to be in there, but she just really doesn't know what to do? Again, I mentioned the fact that at one point the driver pulled over. It was quite quiet. Skyfox was overhead, but there was no law enforcement helicopter. That was an opportunity for her to get out if she wanted to get out, but it appears that she did not get out, and instead this driver is still driving erratically, dangerously. Oh, now we're near the airport, which always makes things a little bit more difficult in terms of keeping an eye, but there's the sedan there. A lot of times, the well-versed drivers being pursued will go to an airport area, and that's because oftentimes that will prohibit or certainly obstruct the way or affect the way that a helicopter like Skyfox is following, and also, frankly, the law enforcement helicopters as well. Okay, turning left now, most likely now getting a little bit away from the Long Beach airport. But the car is definitely speeding faster than traffic. I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience where you're driving along and then you realize there's a police pursuit by you. We are instructed to go to the right to get away from the police or any kind of siren. Okay, watching this, I'm going to try to see if I can catch up with where this car is now. But the airport area, we're talking about Long Beach's airport, and East 29th is not a major thoroughfare, but it does keep you in the airport area of Long Beach, so Long Beach Airport. You see that night sun? That night sun is alerting the driver, because it seems to be a rather dark street, that law enforcement is still overhead. So now as we watch again, so again, I have so little to tell you. You're watching with me, and all I can tell you is that that sedan there, unconfirmed right now, but we're told it's possibly a 23-year-old male with a 15-year-old female passenger. Thus, the call that this is a possible kidnap. This all started in the Long Beach area. Right now, we're in the Laguna Beach area. Right now, we're in the Long Beach area near the airport. At this point, it seems as if the car is going at a pretty good rate of speed right there. We're not seeing a lot of the black and whites, but that's because of the perspective of Skyfox right now, but they are there for sure. This is a situation where they're there with their lights and sirens trying to get this guy to safely pull over and to keep his passengers safe as well. There were a couple brief moments when Skyfox was able to get on the driver's side or the windshield side of the car in order to look inside, and at that point, you could tell that there was somebody in the car with that driver and moving around quite a bit. I don't know whether that meant that the passenger was nervous or didn't want to be there, but that's what we saw. Okay, going through yet another red light. Interestingly, because I don't know how many people do this, but I noticed that the driver has his cell phone up. You know, it's in one of those stands that lets him watch the phone. So in this world where you're not supposed to touch your phone, then that's the safer way to drive, right? So that is the way he is driving, with his phone up like that. Okay, East Spring Street and Fiddler Avenue, this is now what they call the City College area, so away from Long Beach, the airport. Anyway, 66 miles per hour here on a fairly good straightaway, and speeding up now, as you see there, and slowing down for the light. That's a green light. That allows him to go through. Well, this is one of those police pursuits that what makes this most interesting is the fact that there is another passenger, that there is a passenger in there, potential kidnap victim. And these are the days where she's under 18, so maybe she wants to be there, or she wants to be with a potentially 23-year-old man, but you know, that is not that's not legal. That's not allowed. If we don't know how this came to be, who called it in as a potential kidnapping, but say it was her parents, they are not, this is not one of those situations that you want your child to be in. And this makes it even more nerve-wracking to think that this driver is going and driving so erratically and going at this high rate of speed. All right, let's try to get caught up again as I take a look at the map on my computer. Again, more of a suburban location off the freeway. I'm surprised that he hasn't tried to figure out how to get back on the freeway. Made it through that light safely. That was a green light. Okay, trying to get caught up here to see where we are on the map. It's been quite a journey for this driver. Again, if this all started in Long Beach, at least that's when we picked it up, and the driver made it all the way up into the LA County area, Downey, Norwalk, Whittier. There was quite a bit of activity in the Whittier area. The driver was on the freeway, off the freeway, in residential areas, and now this area here, which is not that populated, probably a little safer than being on a narrow road with houses nearby and people perhaps walking their dogs, etc. But still, it's nerve-wracking. Oh, it seems as if he's going back in the same direction that he had been before, as we keep an eye on him. Meantime, you see there that there's enough traffic that it is slowing his progress, slowing the driver's progress. But as soon as other drivers realize that there is a pursuit, or at least black and white's behind, that's going to move people out of the way. Presumably, they're supposed to anyway. Okay, hoping we can get some fresh information on what's going on here. But from my estimation of what's going on, okay, this is a turnoff going back onto the freeway now. And this driver is getting mighty close to the the driver in front. He would like that driver to go a little faster, a faster clip. So, okay, back on the 605. We've seen this driver on the 605 before. It is, again, at this point, driver's not going that fast. There is quite a bit of traffic. Sunday night. So there's more traffic on the 605. That's going to prevent this driver from going too fast. But then again, there's a little bit of maneuvering there. As you see, we've seen him in the HOV lane, and that allows for a faster clip. Okay, so this person, the driver is now going 605 northbound. So it's definitely been one of those situations where it's been on the 605, going southbound, got off the freeway, drove around quite a bit, went near the Long Beach airport, and now is back on the 605 going northbound. As we keep an eye, and Skyfox keeps an eye on this driver. I guess it's kind of interesting. We've watched a lot of police pursuits. It's not often that you hear that the night sun goes out. Sometimes it's because they need to tap out because of fuel, but in this case it was the night sun that went out in the CHP helicopter. So tapped in was LA Sheriff's Department helicopter, and the best information we have at this point is that who is overhead, and in addition to Skyfox. So Skyfox is overhead, but when you see that little circle of light, that night sunlight is coming from the LA Sheriff's Department helicopter. Okay, so this car seems to be driving at, the normal rate of speed. He's going 65 miles per hour. He's staying right next to other cars, not trying to get into the HOV, so this is a little unusual. He might be trying to figure out what his options are. So now he's in the Long Beach Lakewood area. Kind of going back to where we've seen him go, indeed, with the Downey Norwalk area. That is right next door. So now that's what the driver is doing. So again, if you're just joining us now and interested in this police pursuit, let me let you know that we've been watching this car. That's a very wide shot, but we've been watching this car. It is in the number 1, 2, 3, 4 lane, 5 lane with the HOV, I believe. Nope, I was watching the wrong car. So the car that's there in the number 4 lane, including the HOV, and to what we understand is that there is a 15-year-old, a potentially 15-year-old female inside the car. That is what has created a situation where law enforcement is not being too aggressive when it comes to pursuing this vehicle. There is a concern, of course, you can't do anything like a pit maneuver when you know that there may be an innocent person inside. The innocent person is not, could be at risk if they do something like a pit maneuver. And of course, they don't do pit maneuvers on the freeway. That would be too difficult. They also don't throw out those spike strips. So instead, they just keep an eye on this vehicle. The good news is, I guess, for everybody involved, Jonathan Novak is joining me now, is at least the weather conditions for something like this good?
Well, I was actually looking at the traffic in that area right now, Susan, on the SIG alert, and it looks like there is a bit of a slowdown as the 605 there approaches the next highway. I believe there crosses the
105, crosses the 105, it also crosses Interstate 5.
Right, Interstate 5. So there'll be a little bit of a slowdown as that occurs, as they pass past the 5. But unfortunately, there's all green heading all the way up until the 210. So that's clear sailing if they can get through that slowdown past the 5, which I believe they're approaching right now, or might even be going through that.
Yeah, pretty close. Meantime, we're told that Whittier Police, so that also could tell you a little bit about this case. Whittier Police is the lead agency, excuse me, on this, but also Long Beach is involved. Jonathan, what else do you want to add as I cough through?
Well, I'm just watching the speeds on this at 85 miles per hour. Obviously, this person is without abandon, is breaking the law in multiple ways, and has no regard for the speed limit or other people's safety. Now, this looks like it might be the slowdown, possibly just a little bit of traffic, but even the slowdown won't be too much from looking at the maps for them, and so they've unfortunately picked a good stretch to take on the 605, it looks like.
Yeah, it's interesting about Sunday nights is you can run into some traffic because people are finishing up their weekends, but that's, while I might consider this a little trafficky, you're right, when you look at the traffic maps, this is just going to be a green run. So now this car is using a maneuver that might be questionable. Perhaps, oh, it's taking the transition. So this is transition going on the 105, if I'm not mistaken. No, opted out. So kind of trying to do a fake. Oh, no, that's still the transition, correct?
That looks like it.
So 105 goes westbound. Anybody who has taken the 105. But the interesting thing about the 105 is that you can go all the way to the airport, to LAX. But meantime, there are a lot of other options if you want to change direction. So as we're watching that car, again, oh, that's the closest we've seen the black and white in some time. We've seen it close like that before. But this is a pretty good sign that they're getting closer to the vehicle, perhaps trying to persuade. Now, a lot of times in this kind of situation where you have a young person inside or somebody that might be considered an innocent passenger, sometimes they are able to get through to the driver and try to talk to them, try to convince them that the safest thing to do for both people, driver and passenger, would be to abide by the law, abide by the law enforcement behind, and pull over safely. We're not saying that that's what's going on. Well, we're just saying that there's a potential for that always, especially if this is a situation where the parent knows that the 15-year-old, and again, a lot of this is unconfirmed information, but if there is a 15-year-old female inside that vehicle with a 23-year-old male, these are the things that we are hearing but unconfirmed, it's quite possible parents are aware and they are trying to get through to her, and law enforcement might be trying to get through to the driver to convince him that the best thing for both of them would be to slow down and pull over.
Well, the 105 West, not a good option for this driver in the sense that, or for anybody, because there's more traffic. You can see it there, and it's backed up more than the 605 was. And maybe, I'm guessing, police approached or started making a bit of an approach knowing that the car might be slowing down. But you can see now that definitely the 105 is much more backed up, which creates a much more dangerous situation. They're now having to take more evasive maneuvers and having to take more dangerous choices to weave through traffic, creating a danger to those other drivers.
Absolutely. So we're in the Downey-Norwalk area as we keep an eye on that four-door sedan there in the HOV lane, not far behind. Law enforcement could very well be Whittier Police. We were told Whittier Police would be the lead agency. Also Long Beach Police involved, LA Sheriff's Department helicopter overhead. As we watch that car, you know, it does look a little nerve-wracking to me anyway, especially overhead when you see how close that driver that appears it wants. That might be an off-ramp, is it not?
That's what it looks like, yeah.
So getting off at, I believe that might be Paramount. Oh, the Garfield exit. So that's the Garfield exit.
So, yeah, Garfield is, the Garfield exits down
in
to
the Southgate area, according to... Okay, this is another one of those situations where you see that the car has slowed down because in this case, the traffic is not going to let him go. Now, we've seen situations like this before where the drivers, they kind of start to participate and they don't move. We'll see if that's the case, but look how he's making a little bit. Nope, they're going to move forward and the driver's going to move forward too. So again, if you're just joining us, that light color sedan there, sometimes it looks gray, sometimes in that light it looked a little bit white. But it is now speeding up past the rate of traffic. Is that going back on to the freeway, possibly?
I don't
Jonathan,
know. I didn't see them take a turn. I'm not sure about that. But my guess is I don't know. But the fact that they took the exit, I'm not sure what their intention is. They could have stayed on the 605, so they may have a particular place in mind that they are going based on that, when they could have stayed an open highway. And they chose to take a route and then take an exit, which, you know, knowing that they're going to be slowing down and putting themselves at risk of getting caught and getting stopped.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, they might have a certain place in mind that they're going, I would think.
It looks, yeah, so they're still on what I believe is Garfield Avenue. Garfield is the bigger road than Somerset Ranch Road. So the car absolutely is, as you say, oftentimes the driver wants to get back to an area that is familiar. So that's why perhaps we've seen this driver in the Downey-Norwalk area quite a bit. It looks like now though, this is the on-ramp to the 105 going westbound.
Yeah.
Although, did it go on and off?
It looked like they actually were going, yeah, possibly off. Yeah, they're.
Oh, this could be also one of those kinds of transitions where you're going one direction and then you can kind of loop around and get back on the freeway. Oh no, this is the transition to the 710.
Yeah, they were going southbound.
Yeah, this is the glory of, frankly, being on the 605 and the 105. Is there are a lot of options if you decide that you want to change directions or get to a different area. 710 going southbound.
So they're taking like a loop. They're basically going in a loop around.
I've done police pursuits where they just go, 710 to the 105 to the whatever, and it's just a big square, and they just keep on going. So in this case, now this car is going back down southbound, going southbound. And again, the pursuit started in the Orange County area, the Laguna Beach area, but we have seen this car in Whittier, now once again in Downey, Norwalk, and for a brief period of time, we've seen it in other areas as well, including right near the airport, Long Beach Airport. Okay, speeds of 80 miles per hour. A lot of people would say, oh, that's not speeding. And no other car in sight.
Well, it makes you wonder, what, and now they're taking another exit, it looks like, and as, an off-ramp here to a side road or side streets. And so they're going from one highway to a side street, to a highway, to a side street. I'm not sure how that, and now they're taking a U-turn. So they seem to have, at times, an intention and a place to go, and then sometimes it seems like they don't know where they're going.
Such is the nature of a police pursuit.
I guess that's true, right?
Yeah. We don't know what's in the mind of the driver at all. It's nerve-wracking, though, once they come onto these surface streets, and then you just don't know in what way that they will be affected by the traffic, whether or not they will abide by any kind of traffic laws. There you go, a dramatic U-turn there, going right by Dominguez High School.
You see the light on, and it looks like maybe they have their cell phone.
Yeah, the cell phone is up on one of those, stands, so you don't have to hold on to it. So it looks as if going back on to the 710, now going northbound. So oftentimes we talk about the psychology of a driver in a police pursuit, especially a lengthy police pursuit. And the thought is that the driver is thinking, well, as long as I'm not in custody, as long as I don't stop, then I'm still free. I'm still not in trouble. And let me tell you, driver, I know you're not listening to me, but you're already in trouble. And the chance that you can get away from not just the LASD helicopter, but also Skyfox is pretty rare. Those kinds of things are so rare indeed. Right.
They almost always get caught, and there's very little options that they have when they have an enormous skylight on them to evade. I would imagine, though, most of the time there's panic, and it just takes that time for them to understand the actual gravity of their situation.
Absolutely. So, here's the other thing that drivers might not know who are being pursued is the way the strategy is for law enforcement that is behind the driver is after some time, they tap in a new driver in a black and white so that the driver that has been closest to the car can take a rest. So this driver is not able to take a rest. This driver has to just keep on going. The closest thing to the arrest was before we came on the air at 6 o'clock, the night sun, or rather the helicopter, the CHP helicopter, the night sun had gone out, so they brought in this newer helicopter, the LASD helicopter. So there was a moment in time where the car was able to pull over in a residential area and stopped. And we kind of watched and wondered whether or not the person would get rid of the passenger and perhaps, make things a little easier for them. And instead, no, we've been able to see into the windshield and notice that, no, there is absolutely a passenger on the in the front seat.
And they're backtracking, it looks like, going back the same way they came.
There is a lot of that, yeah. So now going back on the 105 east from the 710 south, which then allows them to go back to the 605, which this driver has been on both the northbound 605 and the southbound 605. Again, this could potentially be one of those, I am just going to keep going until the car runs out of gas or there's some reason why I have to stop. But right now, I'm just going to keep going. And the thing is about going eastbound on the 105 is you have other options if you want to take a different direction. As you pointed out, Jonathan, the 105 will go to the 605. The 605 will go right to the 5 and take you in all other kinds of directions. So again, back in the Downey-Norwalk area, we've seen this driver in the Downey-Norwalk area multiple times now, going back and forth, the 605, the 105, 710. And what's interesting is the driver's not going into the Orange County area. So I don't know, perhaps the Orange County area is not the familiar area for this driver at all. But from what we understand, the pursuit started in Laguna Beach and then has moved up into the Orange County area.